Hey y'all, I am back from Eternal Weekend, and in this video I wanted to talk about my experience, the tournament, the trip itself, and everything to do with that festival. And I'll be publishing this on Wednesday, so 3 days after the end. So hopefully there's still people out there who care about Eternal Weekend in this fast-paced world that we live in. But I wanted to have an opportunity to digest, sit down, and tell you all about it. So the only event that I played at Eternal Weekend was the 2025 NA Legacy Champs, the event that you see I have pulled up here. And I didn't do great. I finished 4 and 5, so I didn't make day 2. And I'll show you here, if you look down, I finished 461 out of 900 something players, so kind of right exactly in the middle. And the deck that I played was the deck you've seen me play in all my recent videos, card for card. I didn't make any changes. And, it was okay. I did win all of my matches that I won 2-0, and I lost all of my matches that I lost 1-2. So you can see I was actually 13-10 in games despite the losing record. And so that's a little sad that I wasn't able to convert more matches. I don't want to go extensively through every single match, but I'll just give you the gist of it. I lost a couple matches to Mystic Forge, which I think is overall a favorable matchup, but that's a deck that is extremely explosive, and a card that I think is, as breakfast, a card that we should try to ignore is Glaring Fleshraker. And I died to like 2 Glaring Fleshrakers that gets out of hand super fast. And my opponents were just able to get through what I had going. I won 2-0 against Mono Red Stompy, which was the one matchup I really wanted to avoid. But sometimes your opponent's hate pieces, their lock pieces don't exactly line up with the strategy that you present for that game, and that happened to be the case. And then later on, as things went on, I was 4-4. I played my last match, and I played a Storm opponent who played quite well. So congrats to them. But I just always find that in these events, I sort of disengage if I'm not super live for any sort of prize at the end. And so I definitely felt that towards the end, like especially once I picked up my 4th loss. I did win my follow-up match, but it's really hard for me to stay motivated and engaged in paper events when I've played a lot of Magic and I'm no longer live for any sort of prizes. So I wanted to play it out though. And, overall, I felt okay. I could have played better. There were a couple of important things that I didn't do 100% as well as I could have. Some hands that maybe I could have been a little pickier about mulling. So I'm not going to say that I played perfectly. And, whenever I have an experience like this, whether it's on Magic Online, whether it's in person, anytime that I feel disappointed, I don't want to just chalk it up to variance, for instance. It's easy for us as Magic players to do that. And yes, that is certainly a contributing factor. There is obviously a ton of variance in Magic. And, if a couple draws went my way, maybe 2 of those losses become wins and I make day 2. It's just obviously a factor in the game, but it would be irresponsible of me to not look inwardly about things that I could do better. And the number one thing I think is figuring out what to do to be better focused while traveling and playing Magic, which means not only being a better traveler and more responsible to my mind and body in that, but also the day of. And one of the things that I really like to do when I play a legacy challenge on Magic Online is I really like to play guitar in between rounds. I don't think I'm going to be able to bring my guitar to Eternal Weekend next year, but that is an activity that is not only really mentally engaging and requires a lot of focus, but is totally distracting from the stress of a Magic tournament. And so I like staying mentally engaged in a completely different part of my brain and physically engaged with both my hands. Um, but also just not stressing, not thinking too much about Magic. I was talking a lot with my buddy Will, who I traveled with, and we talked a lot of Magic, and I think we were both a little regretful of that. That maybe we spent too much time talking about Magic in between rounds. Debriefing. Doing your mid tournament report. You want to tell all your friends how you did. But I think that, the next time I do an event like this, I'm going to make a conscious effort not to do that. Otherwise, I think I stayed pretty well fed. I always had a snack. I always got water in the bathroom in between rounds. And the only other thing I'll say physiologically is I didn't get a good night's sleep the night before. Um, I was certainly hyped up to do the event, and I also was kind of hot in my room. If I'm overheated, I can't really sleep. And the hotel where we stayed had like really warm bedding, and I just didn't make that connection soon enough that I needed to like take the blanket off and just sleep with like the sheet. Um, and so I didn't get the best night's sleep. And I felt good that day, but that could have contributed to some fatigue later on. So these are all things that I have to make a point to do better at when I'm traveling and playing Magic. Because to tell you the truth, I have not traveled tremendously to play Magic, but I have never had a really strong result when traveling. All of my paper events that I've done well in have been events that I didn't have to travel super far, and that I woke up in the same city where it took place, and or it was just close to home. So I need to probably travel more, find more events like that, and be willing to do more stuff like that, and develop that routine that really gets me in the zone to be playing my very best. Because I didn't play my very best, and I felt disappointed for myself, but also, there were a lot of people locally, friends who I play with, and people online who, I think thought I was going to do better. And so I feel like I let I let everybody down to some degree. So hopefully next time it'll be better. Um, One of the things that was by far, honestly, the best part of Eternal Weekend was meeting people. And I was super lucky. A bunch of people came up to me and introduced themselves to me, said they liked my content. And I went up to a couple people as well who are content creators and introduced myself to them. And um, it was just amazing to meet people who I've interacted with via Discord or YouTube comments or Magic Online, and put a face and a name to that person, because we get so used to interacting with people over Discord and in that sphere, but we're all three-dimensional, four-dimensional people who, have a lot more to offer than just like a random comment in the Cephalid Breakfast Discord on should I mulligan this or not, and why. And so it was tremendous to meet so many people. And I made a point to like write everyone's names down, and if they were if I know you from Cephalid Breakfast Discord, I wanted to shout you out here. So all the people who I remembered meeting, just in the order that I wrote this down here: Ben Floop from Discord. We had a great talk over lunch on the Sunday, and definitely was awesome to meet you. Andy Waugh from Discord, who I played the Steel City winning deck list. Another really cool person to meet. We met in the back corner of the event, where I spent a lot of time just chilling, trying to get away from all the noise. Kevin, Free King from Discord, spent a lot of time with you. It was fun to spectate all the finals. I want to go back and speak about that in a bit. But it was, and you were the first person who came up to me. So that was my first ever experience of being recognized, you know, in a public space for my YouTube content. So definitely really cool. Um, who else? Darth Sear. I didn't catch your actual name, but we met just super briefly in between rounds. That was cool to meet you. Alex, I don't know if Alex is on Discord, but we talked about all sorts of stuff. That was definitely a highlight of my convention, was talking about tons of stuff other than magic, philosophy. Talking about one of my favorite authors, Jorge Luis Borges, who I was reading on the plane on the way to Pittsburgh. So that was a super cool conversation. I met Swagohod from Painter Discord. We met just briefly, but that was super cool. It was nice to meet Zach Clark from Eternal Durdles. We had a great conversation, and definitely I'm an admirer of his and Phil's content tremendously, so that was great to meet him. I met Jared Witsend, who I've known for Painter Discord for a while, and now in the Breakfast Discord playing Nadu. So that was really nice, and we've been chatting on Discord and stuff like that. I met Harry Houdini. I assume your name's Harry. That was really cool. We met just briefly too, kind of in the back, but I've enjoyed our like Twitter conversations and YouTube and Discord and stuff. So that was awesome to meet you. Matt Bruin. We met watching the top 8, and that was super fun. He had a lot of good stuff to say, and always great comments on Discord. Met Brandon. Spoke a lot in between rounds, and good stuff to say about the deck. And yeah, just great to meet you as well. And then some people who I was super excited to meet, who I went out of my way to try to find. Eric, ELD from ELD's Time Vault games. He made my playmat, and actually Eric is it was his content. He's a great has a great YouTube channel, just filming from his local game store in Massachusetts. And he always would play Cephalid Breakfast, and this was back when it was like an Aether Vial, probably 4 days deck, and like seeing like all these turn 2 wins back by days. That was the first thing that made me think like Breakfast would be a cool deck to play. So to actually meet Eric in person after like having a lot of dealings with him over Discord over the years was super cool. I've never actually been to that store, but he was actually playing my buddy Will second round, and so that was a cool opportunity to meet. And then I also met Larson, of course. I met Larson super early on. I just ran into him in between rounds, and it was fun to watch. I watched as much of his tournament as possible, making it all the way to the top 4. Which brings me to what I did on Sunday. So Sunday, I had planned on playing side events, but was just like talking with people, and that was just better. So I enjoyed that. Also talking with Aaron, who I know locally. Talked a lot about, just EDH and random life stuff. So that was super cool. And I enjoyed the conversations a lot more than like random side events. I can play Magic at home. Ironically, I probably played less Magic than I would have played if I stayed home and just played leagues and challenges at home. I played 9 rounds of Magic that weekend, and that's honestly far less than I play on a typical weekend. But back to the top 8 and spectating, I think if you make it that far to Eternal Weekend and you are not alive for the top 8 or didn't make day 2, I would highly recommend spectating, like finding someone who's playing a similar deck to you and just watching the rest of it, because that was super insightful for so many reasons. Obviously, getting to follow Larson. Larson's a great player. He's the best. He's the best Breakfast player. And so getting to watch him play and seeing some of the lines he took was super inspiring. But also, it was interesting because there were a lot of moments where super late in the tournament, Larson benefited a lot from some really sketchy play. And I don't want to diminish his accomplishments. I don't want to diminish the strength of his opponents. But I thought that was encouraging because, I play a lot. I personally think I'm a pretty good Magic player and pretty good at Cephalid Breakfast and Legacy. And it was comforting to see that, even people at these top tables are making some pretty bad plays, or maybe not understanding some certain interactions that to me felt like things I would expect. And I'll say two main things, two really crazy things that I saw spectating. Um, and one was, so Larson was playing the Delver player Roland Chang for a win in the top eight. And Roland's obviously a great player to be in that position and to do well. And I know he has a long history, and I've watched him play a lot of 90s MTG and play really tight. But it was game three, and Larson had just cast a brainstorm, and he was brainstorm locked. And Roland didn't necessarily know that, but I think had a pretty good inclination that Larson could have been brainstorm locked. And Roland on his main phase, he cast surgical extraction on Larson's Tundra in his graveyard, and that was on so many levels, I think, a really bad play. Number one, you could have waited until draw step to do it, right? In case another Tundra was drawn. Number two, surgicaling Tundra as a play is just really weak, right? I mean, if you're doing it for information, I mean, there's so many different cards you could have picked that would have been better than a Tundra. Maybe he was thinking there was a Tundra in hand. Maybe some bit of information had gotten lost in Roland's head. But then on top of that, like seeing a player who cast Brainstorm and didn't shuffle at the end of their turn, who's on one land, like that land there was a dazing situation, so the land was freshly played. So there was not 100% confirmation that the Brainstorm lock was legitimate. But to see that play from someone who was on the verge of top eight at Eternal Weekend, it baffled me. I mean, my jaw dropped, and I thought that was just an incredible blunder. And again, no disrespect. I mean, that's a high pressure situation after a ton of magic for multiple days in a row. But it just goes to show that those plays happen at the top tables. And someone like me who was very far from the top tables at Eternal Weekend, it made me feel like I could play and make it to those tables. And then the other play I saw that happened in the quarterfinals, which is where Larson lost, sadly, to the eventual winner, Tom Basketball on Mystic Forge. Game one, Larson won, and then lost the remaining games. But that game was also highly losable because for Tom, Larson had an empty library and had to cast Thassa's Oracle from hand the following turn. And that happened because Larson actually, he thought he had a force in his deck in like 3 cards that were remaining, and he had Nadu in play, so he flipped all the cards into play. And I guess he just miscounted because all the Force of Wills were already in the graveyard. So his library was empty, and Tom had a Kozilek's command in hand, meaning that in the main phase, in his own main phase, he could have targeted Larson with the target player Scry's X draw a card mode and decked Larson right then. But instead he waited until Larson's upkeep to make that play, meaning that Larson untapped and he had Memory's Journey. And so he was able to Memory's Journey in response, have cards in library, and then cast Thassa's Oracle. So that was a huge blunder that cost Tom that game. And he did go on to win that match. But for the person who won Eternal Weekend to mismanage that situation, and again, these are super high pressure. So I get it. And I've been under high pressure in Magic and other things in life and made mistakes that I wouldn't normally make. But to see those plays, it gave me optimism that, you know, for me personally as a player, I don't feel like I'm as far from being in a situation like that. If I play well, if I'm the beneficiary of luck, as I could be. I want to give a huge shout out to Larson for his run with Breakfast. That was unbelievable. And I saw some amazing plays that he made, like some lines that, like winning by combat damage with Thassa's Oracle after Dread returning it back, and putting like the perfect 3 cards under with a memories journey to stay alive. There were some unreal plays that Larson made, and to be able to watch him and follow along was so inspiring. So congrats, Larson, on your run. I wanted to highlight all the cephalid breakfast decks that made the top 128 that left with money. And so these are just real quick, but this is Larson's list. So top 4 of Eternal Weekend, a lot of prize money, Tendrils promos. This list featured a main deck Prismatic Ending, main deck Ghost Vacuum, Serenity in the sideboard, and he played my buddy Will and wrecked Will's board with Serenity. So it definitely came up. Will's a painter player, by the way. And so great list. I'm definitely going to run this exact list in a video very soon. Next player, Avi Lesure. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. And I don't have the exact placings up here. But this was the next highest with a record. So rank 20, 11, 1, and 3. So just converting probably a single draw to a win would have been top 8. And this person left with a Tendrils promo. So congrats to Avi for this 1 days, 2 Prismatic Ending main, 4 Tamiyo. I'm glad to see the 4 Tamiyo is pretty much stock now. And congrats Avi. HRWK, another strong finish. This was ranked 53, so just missing that Tendrils promo, but definitely leaving with some cash. 4 Tamiyo, 1 ending, 2 swords, 2 days. Super cool list. 3 macabres. So pretty much similar to what I've been doing, except 1 consign instead of the second Ghost Vacuum and a Fairy Macabre instead of Cauldron. Spencer, another strong finish, 57th, 10.05. My goodness, undefeated, but all these draws. Strong finish, 4 Tamiyo, 1 Prismatic Ending, 2 days. This one did have the Cauldron. So 3 consign over a forest. That was probably a really good move with the amount of forage in the room. This was Kevin, who I spoke with a whole lot at the event. Strong finish, left with some cash, 106, 915. Man, all these draws for all y'all. Crazy. I got to slow down. I never draw in paper. And I do think I played too fast at Eternal Weekend. Really good list. Prismatic Ending, 2 swords, 2 days, 4 Tamiyo. Got the Cauldron, 2 consign, and Serenity. Yeah, I think going up on consign, I had 1 consign, but everybody running more than 1 consign, I think, had the right idea. Gabe, this was rank 120, 906, another undefeated. Actually, I think these must be showing draws in the middle. It's gotta be, because I remember Kevin saying, pretty sure it's your 9, 5, and 1. So I think I've just got these draws mixed up. I think it's just showing it in a weird order. And yeah, I think Larson, this shows the top 8 as well, but I think was 12, 2, 1, like 12 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. So I've got the draws mixed up. So I apologize for all of that misinformation there. So yeah, Gabe, 9-6 finish. Really solid list. 2 null rods, interesting. And pick your poison. This is definitely the spiciest list so far, but cool stuff. I was wondering if Breakfast could run null rod after the event, and it's something I'd like to test. Aaron, another cool list. Main deck Ghost Vacuum. Main deck Ending. This looks very similar to Larson's list from the event, and another 9-6 finish. Matt P. I'm guessing this is Matt Bruin. 1 days. Flusterstorm in the main deck. Pretty neat. A little spicy, but definitely a good card. Sort of uncounterable finish for Entomb. 9-6 finish. 124th. And then the last one, Devin. 3 Tamiyo. 3 swords, 2 days. 2 consign. Yeah, I gotta get more consigns in my sideboard. Y'all all had the right idea. And just barely getting in at 128th on breakers to get some prize money. So congrats So all these players for strong finishes, y'all did much better than me. And I'm proud of everybody for representing breakfast well. I think breakfast was overall a solid deck that had a winning overall percentage. And I did my best to counteract that with my play. So everybody, great job. And there were many other players who played and did very well. So congrats to everybody. A couple other things I wanted to talk about here before I wrap this up. So I wanted to talk about the trip, some logistics. So I spent on this trip, all my travel included, the cards I picked up, everything, all my food, parking at the airport, every expense. I spent $1,486.44. And I think that I had a very budget version of Eternal Weekend. I only stayed 3 nights. My work would not let me take off anymore. So I was only there Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. I shared a room. I shared a lot of expenses. I spent $20 on Magic cards. I did not. I basically just traded some cards with vendors. I was very keen on not spending much money on cards. It's just been my feeling of late with my Magic collection. And so if you want to do Eternal Weekend, it's possible you could spend less on flights. My flights were kind of expensive, I thought, but I think you'd be hard pressed to spend less than that. The hotel I stayed in was not the cheapest, but it was right there. You could walk to the Eternal Weekend Convention Center. And if you stay farther to stay for cheaper, you're probably spending as much on Ubers. So I think all in all, that was a good call. And I really don't think I could have gotten that trip much cheaper. So if you're interested in doing Eternal Weekend and that's not something you've done before, I would budget, $1,500, $2,000 at least to be able to make it there, have some spending money, get your food, and have all your expenses covered. So it was not a terribly expensive trip, but not cheap either. So I would definitely keep that in mind. These trips cost money, and you want to be prepared for that. I definitely regret. Really, my biggest regret of the trip was just not doing more in Pittsburgh. I really went straight from my hotel to the convention, to my hotel, to the convention, to the hotel, to the airport. That was pretty much a couple walk to one restaurant, some good Thai food. But yeah, I wish I had just maybe gone for a walk or Pittsburgh was beautiful. It was beautiful weather and I've never been to Pittsburgh. So hopefully I'll be back next year for Eternal Weekend and I'll follow through on doing something like that. And that's really it. It was a great experience overall. I had a blast. And I just want to finish my video here with my biggest shout out for Eternal Weekend, and that was to my roommate and travel partner, Will. Will was really great this whole trip. And if you're from Houston, Will, he's awesome. Great Magic player. He did way better. He made day 2, got some cash, but just made my travel way easier. Because Will this was his third Eternal Weekend. This was my first. So he knew the good place to stay. He booked the hotel, knew the places to eat, and overall just increased my comfort level massively with doing this. So big thanks to Will for making my trip just way better. And congrats on your finish. Yeah, Will's a really strong painter player and definitely someone who I think has potential for even better finishes in the future. So I always like talking Magic with Will and playing against him. He always freaking wrecks me, whether it's playing a painter mirror or me playing breakfast. I just feel like whenever I'm at Asgard games in Houston and I see I've been paired into Will, I'm always just dang. So thanks, Will, for helping to make the trip super great. Yeah, man, it was a great experience. If you've never been, I would highly recommend it. I had a blast. Thank you to everybody who I met. And thanks to Card Titan for putting it on. And hopefully I'll be back next year. Hopefully I'll be on day 2, top 8, whatever. I am very optimistic about how I can do in the future. And I'll I'll be working this whole next year to make that dream a reality. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with some actual magic.